All right, everybody. How are we doing? You guys doing okay? Is anyone upset that I've arrived perfectly on time? I'm on a streak again. This point system really works. I really don't want to accumulate more points. ZG says, Morge, my goat is going to be on time. Just watch. Exactly. I'm here for you. Didn't want to let you down, man. All right. Did we get points? No, you didn't get points. You should not be excited about the points. You should be excited that the stream is starting on time. The goal is not for you guys to hope that I'm late. The goal is that you guys are happy that life progresses according to schedule. Here's the other piece of news. I've not read the chapter yet. I know what happens in the chapter because I've seen spoilers, but I've not read the chapter yet. Rare Morge early show up. It's not even that rare nowadays. I feel like nowadays I'm getting it mostly on time. JWP, thanks for the 2. This is sus. Why are you here, bro? Can't a guy just be on time? Can't I just be on time? I should be allowed to be on time. Polmao, thanks for being a member for 28 months, man. Always good to see you. Thanks for the long time support. Cup says, good job, Mork. Wait, Cup. Is this TCB? No, never mind. Am I mixing things up? Yeah, TCB has their own thing. For some reason I got confused with Cup. Unless you are TCB. I don't think you're TCB. TCB, I think, used to come through with a different channel. I think just a normal TCB channel. Anyway, yeah, let's read the chapter. Let's get through the chapter. I know what happened, so I'm not going to act super surprised. I'm not going to be like, oh my god, Loki and Harold, that's crazy. I already read that part. I already know about that part. Okay, but I don't know how things happen. And isn't that the fun part? Finding out how shit happens. All right, let's get into it. Cup says, I'm not affiliated with TCB. I'm just a simple mod. Gotcha. Let's get the stream likes up to 50 real quick. All right. So we're seeing some of the monster creatures attacking Elbaf. Y'all wait, stop. Ilva, Magu, Ronya. What's with this white cloth? Where are you kids going? Oh, so the white cloth is not... Oh, shit. Okay. You want us not to touch them? The one that was covered in blood. Oh, okay, so that's how that happened to the PE teacher. Okay. Ah, okay. I see. All right. This is an interesting ability. I feel like you should be able to power through the thorns. Nah, maybe not. I guess it's very difficult. Here's what I would do. I would get like a big box made out of like metal, and I would just put them on the kid. That's what I would do. Like just trap him like a mouse type thing. You don't need to touch him. Just get a big... Can I send a letter to Oda? Hey Oda, here's how we get the kids out. We need a big box made out of metal. You just put it on the kids. This is a job for Frankie, in my opinion. That's what I would do. If I was at Elbaf, this would be solved pretty quickly. Polmouth, thanks for gifting 10 memberships. Holy shit. Thank you so much. Again, thanks for the long time support. Really appreciate it. Holy shit. Well, what happened? What happened? What's going on here? What the hell? Okay. Yeah, a lot of people getting memberships. Holy shit. Polmouth, thank you so much. Everybody shouts in the chat to Polmouth. A lot of you just got memberships. Like a good over 5% of you just got memberships. Holy shit. Handheld Tiger 98 McCarville, say thanks to Polmau. Molly Pocoloco, you got a membership again. Bryce J, Lando, Juan Carlos, Flummoxed Fox, Chilte 97, Jordan Dyer, Tion Seraphine. All of you guys just say thanks. Everyone shouts in the chat to Polmau. Thanks a lot, Polmau. Seriously, really appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoyed the chapter. Yeah. Thanks a lot. Just build a wall. Yeah, that's even better. That's better. That's one up my box idea. Just build a wall. Snap, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 30 months. Hey, Morge, have not been watching streams, left Japan. Oh shit, the adventures of Snap continue. And started working in Norway in a kindergarten, and his life is going great. Hope you're doing well. I've heard phenomenal things about Norway. I hear life is pretty good there. I hear they take care of their citizens pretty good. And you're a citizen there now. Well, I guess not legally a citizen, but you're a kindergarten teacher now. They take care of them well over there. Congrats, Snap. You're having quite an interesting life you're living. All right, getting to travel the world, experience different things, different places, getting to live there for bits and pieces. That's awesome. Thanks for tuning in. All right, Saul is hurt. What the? Saul, what something? Did something stab you? Blah, blah, blah. Ange is definitely a traitor. I'm just going to throw this poll up here right now. Morge, please read Kingdom. I'm watching Solo Leveling right now. I think I'm not in a manga reading mood, I've realized. I think something happened recently that I used to be a manga person and not an anime person. Okay. The whole cycle of this was this, right? I was an anime person originally. Then I think I slowly shifted to being a manga person around the end of high school. I think I just got so frustrated, like, with pacing issues for pretty much every anime and manga, that I just shifted over, and I was a manga person all throughout high school. No, not all throughout. From end of high school through college, I was just a manga person, including post-college manga person. I think in the last couple years, I've shifted. There's been a shift. I don't know. What was the last manga that I really read? Maybe JoJolion? Fire Punch was the last manga that I really read. Yeah, so I still read manga here and there, but I started to shift more towards watching anime. I think that there's been... You know what it is? I think that I took such a long break from just, like, following anime in general, because so many of my issues were the pacing, things like that. Just the pacing frustrated the shit out of me. By the time I came back, nowadays all popular series pretty much all have really good anime adaptations. You know, like Demon Slayer, Solo Leveling. Like, just everything is so much tighter, more concise. In like, I think because anime went seasonal, right? There's always been seasonal anime. Sorry, but like, just coming back and realizing that, like, almost all the best anime are seasonal anime, and like, I was just grew accustomed to watching so many weekly anime back in the day. I got frustrated with that. Now I've realized, okay, no, now I feel like a good anime adaptation can trump a good manga as long as it's a good anime adaptation. So I don't know why I'm going off on this tangent. Anyway, I think I like the moving pictures. I like that. And that's not to say that anime just trumps manga in general for me, because I think like a really good, really tight manga like Fire Punch, I still prefer that. But I think just for, you know what it is? It's just very relaxed. Anime is better for relaxation. Like, when I'm tired at the end of a long day and I just want to smoke legal things or whatever, then it's just relaxing my brain is not in the mode of reading unless it's like subtitles. My brain is in the mode, I've told you, like, oh, I've been looking for action anime recently. It's just because, like, I think I just want to watch moving stuff and, like, characters hitting each other and shit like that. I think that's where my headspace is right now. That's all I really need. I'm a simple person at the moment. So even though I know Kingdom's really good, I think I'm gonna... Let me finish out Solo Leveling and shit. I think Kingdom is next on my... It's up there on the list. Let's get the stream likes up to 50 real quick. Is Ange a traitor? Yes? No. Do people think Ange is a traitor just because she's... I feel like there's some level of, like... I feel like people think Ange is a traitor because she's ugly. Does that make sense? Like, not ugly. Like, it's not like, oh my god, this is the ugliest person. But it's just like, we know how Oda traditionally draws women, right? It's like, if you look at the dudes in Elbaf, you got such a variety, right? You got Hajrudin, you got Stanson, you got, like, you got so many different, all, like, that principal walrus dude, Saul, yada yada. And then the women, it's like, here's Gerd. You like Gerd? Well, here's Ripley. Yeah, you like that shit? Oh, here's Ange. And we're like, something's off about Ange. Something's not quite right here. Why is she in the story? Must be some sort of a traitor or some shit. All right. Ange, whatever her name is. Is her name Ange or Angie? What is it? All right, continuing on. Interesting. Most people don't think she's a traitor. Last I checked, most people thought she was a traitor. So I guess things changed this chapter. School children, my kid is there. That's not mysteries of the emotional force. Telediction snail, only used in Elbaf. What the fuck? Telediction snail, what does that mean? Not really an ostrich. Thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for a month. I hope you enjoyed the last podcast. The time is coming up to submit for the next podcast, so I'll make sure to give a big shout out so everyone knows to get their submissions in. Long-time viewer, but I didn't get a membership until I got bitter that I never got gifted one, lol. Shout out Polmow, though. I'm happy that you were able to get a membership in the end. Thanks a lot, Not Really an Ostrich. I hope you enjoyed the membership benefits. Bunfagum, thanks for the 7. Super anticlimactic in my opinion. Classic Oda fumbling the tension. At least the God's Knights are cool as a group dynamic. Bring Shamrock back. Let's see. Let me read the rest of the chapter. Because last chapter was phenomenal in terms of tension. Really seemed to set up a great tone going forward. The 8th branch. I'm worried about the fact that Elbaf has so many branches. I can see the future where it's the climax of Elbaf, and then Oda's pulling out his maps, and he's showing a map of the Elbaf tree, and he's like, these characters are on this branch. Chopper and Usopp are on this branch. Sanji and Frankie are on this branch. And then, like, these characters we don't care about are on this branch. And it's just, like, every chapter is cutting between, like, 4 different branches or something. I'm worried about that. My great-great-granddaughter. Great-great-grand. I'm sorry I made fun of this dude, Jarl. He is funny as fuck. I like this guy a lot. I just didn't... I used to hate him because he was a bum who embarrassed the Giants of Elbaf, but now I've realized that it's okay if he's a bum. He's a funny bum. I do see... It was nice seeing the Strats stressed a little bit. Seeing a lot of the Strats and Giants for a gag panel for this. I don't know how I feel about that right now. Whoa! Shit, this skeleton... God damn, it's so crazy to think that these things are giants to giants, right? Like, I think just the scale is kind of insane to think about. Like, I would love to see what a Straw Hat close-up looks like compared to this burning skeleton thing. Oh my god. Dory, is that fucking Dory and Brogy, or like Brogy or whatever, terrified about this shit? Oh my god. Love is both rose and... Sommers is kind of crazy. This is what I was thinking about with the Celestial Dragons too. I did think that they were going to be just a bunch of like serious, like not really lovable, like some of CP9 were or something like that, or even some of the Beast Pirates. Like these are assholes. Although no, the Beast Pirates, like Jackson, what am I talking about? No, some of the Beast Pirates are kind of fun and lovable, aka Ulti, Page 1. Death by Love. This dude is a Sanji matchup. Come on. It would be such a waste if this guy doesn't fight Sanji. Thorn fruit. They still have their quirks and gags, though, like him falling over. Oh, we get a nice little top-down view of Elbaf. Owl Library, Walrus School, Western Village, Harbor. Making them go that way will get them to the ocean clouds I saw by the village. To be in the center is to be vulnerable. That's a harsh reality to face, especially when you're too helpless to move. So I already read about his ability, but this is interesting how it works. So he can pull. That's very interesting. So he can put people. It's a combo fruit. I find it interesting that. So sometimes fruits are like what it says on the label, right? Like fucking the splitting fruit, like Buggy can split himself, right? And other times fruits are there's like a second level to them, right? So there's a combination. It's like two fruits in one, right? So sugars is a notable one that I think a lot of people think of when it comes to that concept, right? Because sugar's fruit turns people into toys, yeah, but at the same time, it could also be interpreted as a fruit that, like the real power is that it can make people just forget about your existence entirely, right? So it's two abilities in one, right? The toy part and the making people forget about your existence. Those are essentially two different abilities combined into one. I feel like with the God's Knights so far, I feel like their fruits have been a little bit like that. So Sommer's with the thorn fruit, right? So he can create these thorns and everything that he can use, but it's not just like a Logia thorn type ability where you could produce thorns. There's this other magical effect, I guess you could say, where if you like it's there's this love connection, I suppose, in terms of how much you love a character, then that causes more difficulty to create contact for you. Like there's this additional piece to it that seems separate from just a thorn ability, right? This sort of love amplification, like love amplifies the ability, or like tying it into characters' feelings and everything like that, and turning feelings against you. So there's that. I feel like with killing him, it's also kind of a similar case, it looks like, where being able to put people to sleep, that in itself is an ability, right? It looks like he put Sommers to sleep right here. So being able to put people to sleep, that's an ability, and then being able to pull things from people's imagination, that's another ability. So it seems like it's, again, two abilities in one, right? Like Bobbin, he could put people to sleep, it seemed like. Killing him, and that wasn't a Devil Fruit ability as far as we know, but killing him, as far as I remember, but killing him's got another, yeah, it's like a 2-for-1 ability. So these are powerful fruits. I think in general, anytime a fruit does two things in one, I think it's Oda stretching the like, it's just interesting because, like, so many early fruits are just straightforward. Like, it is what it is. It says it is, right? The wax fruit, like the splitting fruit, the exploding fruit, right? It's later in the story that we're getting these fruits that are, like, it's combining two totally different abilities. I get that the dream fruit being able to make people go to sleep is not that different from pulling things from people's imagination, but if you really piece it out, it is two separate abilities, right? Like, pulling from imagination is one, putting people to sleep is another. You combine them, and I guess you can put it under the dream fruit concept. Oh, Sommers doesn't even really know the ability that well. It's interesting. JWP, thanks for the 10, man. Thanks for coming through. I'm definitely still on the train of Loki being not being a villain, but did you see the volume cover with Loki and how it correlates to the recent arc volume covers with villains? What's the most recent volume? FN says Summer's Devil Fruit is weak as fuck. I think, like, with a lot of characters, the Devil Fruit is kind of just a bonus, if that makes sense. Like, he could probably be a pretty strong fighter, I imagine. Yeah, what was the recent volume cover? King J, thanks a lot. I don't know if this was brought up in here already, but why do you think Loki has his eyes closed even as a kid? Let me get through the rest. Somebody tell me what the recent volume was, and I'll look it up real quick. That's the ability, blah, blah, blah. That ship docked at the village is meant for the giants. I don't like Gunko. I don't like that we have, like, a cutesy face for her here. Unless Gunko's, like, a Revolutionary Army double agent, like, working for them. But let's see. Game is way too easy. Hey, is this your... So it's just for taste. Alright. I like that they're giving Luffy respect here. Emperor Straw Hat Luffy's on Elbaf. I like that. They should react that way, right? It should feel the same thing as like, oh shit, fucking Shanks is on Elbaf. Or like, oh shit, Kaido's on Elbaf, you know? Are the kids heading for the fire? Yeah. The landscape shots here are good. They convey some level of seriousness. Good, go ahead and try something Hajrudin. None of you can even lift Ragnar. I like that. Hey, dogs, quiet. Come here. Come. Yeah. Come here. Yeah, what's happening? It's not that bad. Oh my god. None of you can even lift Ragnar. I like that it's a callback to Norse mythology, the hammer. I like that Luffy's looking out for him here. Oh, Zoro's called it out. No choice. Luffy, are you gonna let him off easy? The lightest tap. I wonder if we get a rematch between Luffy and Loki. Hey, Harley, Casey, no. Come here. Come. No. Luffy's such a good guy. I know it's ridiculous to say after so many hundreds, over 1,000 chapters of reading, but like he genuinely is just such a pure person. I just like moments like this. Like Luffy fucking was pissed as shit at Loki and really did not. I mean, like their first interaction just went so sour. It started off hot, it started off well, but then it went so sour. Now it's like, even despite all that, he still wants to save him. Several months for a full recovery? What? Oh, fuck no. Several months? That's BS. In One Piece, no matter how bad you're injured, they're always fine by the next island. Like, literally. Like, we've seen characters at death's door before. This is the same, like, Zoro fucking experienced nothing happened and he actually was still mentioned to be injured at Sabaody, but that was like a week later. This is weird. I'm confused about the several months thing. Maybe, what if in Elbaf they're just really bad doctors and then Chopper's able to fix him faster? To be fair, like, they didn't have a school for so long, so they can't be the most educated on this stuff. I don't mind staying here. Damn. Those horns are the real deal. It's the mark of the ancient giants. Father Harold was the same. Damn, Loki's face is pretty badass. Like, the way the horns come out, I like that. Yeah, tell him, Loki. You're just a bastard. You'll never be Dad's true heir. Tell him. I've been saying this shit about Hajrudin. I remember people started trying to scale when people found out Hajrudin was a royal family member, like he was the son of the king. People started trying to upscale Hajrudin, and they were like, actually, what he did with Makvis, that's actually pretty impressive. It's like, no, he's Makvis level, at best. Loki is the true heir. Get Hajrudin out of here. Ship him back off to the Colosseum. Something like that. Where he can get like 5th place. Not even make it to the quarterfinals or whatever. Everyone knows about your mom's dirt. Yeah! Everyone knows your mom's got dirty blood. Get out of here. Get Hajrudin out of here. Come on now. I'm on board, Loki. I support this. Yeah. Yeah, you tell him, Loki. I love Loki's final scene. This was a great final scene. I like it a lot. I like it a lot. King J says Loki knows how to power scale. Yeah. Loki knows how to power scale. Not the not the Mach V scalers in our community. People were genuinely trying to calculate, like, oh, actually, if you add up all of the tons of force it would take to punch Mach Vs, Loki, like, Hajrudin has the highest, like, punching power in the story. It's like, no, man, Oda didn't fucking do that math. He put Hajrudin against, like, the fucking 8th strongest, 9th strongest member of the Don Quixote family and had him go, like, extreme diff with him. Jesus Christ. What a disgrace. What a disgrace. My God. Loki's a phenomenal character, though, so far. Really enjoying Loki. Hold on. I gotta... 1 second. Seeing Loki's face, I gotta send a text to my editor about the thumbnail. Sorry, this is important. Hold on. Hold on. All right. Continuing on. This is a good chapter. I like this chapter. I was more excited at the end of last chapter. I like this chapter for other reasons. End of last chapter, I was extremely excited because I felt like that was the highest level of tension that we'd gotten in a One Piece chapter in some time, because it was the most I'd seen the Straw Hat Pirates affected since, I guess, the chapter Luffy died, right? 1143. So I just really like seeing the crew actually shaken up and thrown off by something that's happening. And just in general, Oda used a lot of serious, scary shading last chapter. Lots of characters. Everyone on Elbaf from top to bottom was panicking. And I loved the fact that it's like a twofold threat that's breaking out at the same time. To me, that's always exciting. Like with the God's Knights enacting their plan upstairs and then Loki going off downstairs. So I thought that was really cool. This chapter, it paves the way for Loki to get some really good character writing. I think that it's a little bit underwhelming that Oda built up for so long the idea that, like, shit's gonna go down when Loki is released. Like, he's telling us that over and over and over. Like, you can't release this dude. Like, if you release this dude, it's got, like, all hell's gonna break loose, right? I don't like that it ultimately went out like this, because it just felt like he was building to something a little bit more climactic. I still want the good character writing, like the nuanced character writing for Loki, but I wonder if it could have come out, like if he could have still done a bit more exciting stuff first before then transitioning to that. So that's my thought on that end. Upstairs, I think that Oda, like, we've got the gods. I think right now what kind of needs to be established is how seriously is the God's Knights. Like, what is the tone? What's the tension that we're supposed to be feeling from the God's Knights plan? Because last chapter, it felt really fucking scary. The imagery, the reactions of characters and stuff. This chapter, we're already starting to get a bit more of the gag moments from the Straw Hats and things like that. So I'm curious to see where that goes and how serious that ends up feeling at the end of the day. I do like that Oda set things up so that... Hey, I'm going to close the door. I'm not going to let you go. Hey, Casey, you want out? Casey, you want out? Huh? Hey, Harley, you want out? Huh? Yeah, be good. Yeah. What was I saying? No, just, I'm curious to see how serious that situation becomes. I hope that the God's Knights are successful in some way. I think the fact that the monster trio is separated... Like, the monster trio ultimately was not needed for the Loki situation, right? So I guess that, like, Sanji didn't even do anything because there was nothing to be done. So I'm viewing it more so now as like Loki was a distraction for the monster trio rather than anything else, like just to get them kind of off the board. And so I do think the Gods Knights will likely be successful to some degree. Let's wait and see. Anyway, so King J, I don't know if this was brought up in here already, but why do you think Loki has his eyes closed even as a kid? So let me look at this panel again. I feel like... Okay, my two thoughts are this. I feel like if his eyes are closed as a kid, I feel like he might have... This is like a shot in the dark guess. But my feeling is that Loki might see visions. It's possible Loki has powerful observation haki and he sees visions. Loki is committed to being the sun god that destroys the world or something like that. It's possible that he has lots of visions or something. We don't know. I think that's my thought, so maybe he closes his eyes to kind of stop himself from seeing that. Other characters that have kind of closed their eyes, Fujitora, also a very strong observation haki user, but not for the same reasons, obviously. He just saw too much... Fujitora saw too much evil, so he cut off his own eyes or something like that. I feel like Fujitora's got a strong backstory. Loki, I feel like... I don't know, maybe he saw visions of the future or something and he just had to shut his eyes in some way. That's my shot in the dark guess. Tofi2000, thanks a lot. Hi, Morge, cool chapter. Love the Gods Knights scene, the excess dialogue of them just talking about food. Yeah, I like it. I like the Gods Knights dynamic so far. How do you think events are going to play out? Is Hajrudin going to believe and forgive Loki? I think at some point Hajrudin is going to believe and forgive Loki. I think that... This is tricky. I do think the Gods Knights are going to get away with stealing some kids here. I think the Gods Knights are going to get away with stealing some kids here. I think that... Hey, Harley, no. Hey, Harley. 1 second. Harley. Hey, Harley. Come on. If you bark, get close. No. I think the Gods Knights are going to succeed in that regard. I think that... Oh, shit. I think that with Loki, I mean, it's looking like we won't get much action from him until... I don't understand the several months thing. Can anybody think of something as to how he would get back to full strength before? Because, like, several months is like... Forget Elbaf. He's not going to be at full strength till, like, after the fucking... like, story is over, right? Like, he's gonna miss the whole fucking final war. I've also never heard of this shit either. Several months for recovery for any character in One Piece? That's kind of insane, right? Like, which character has ever needed several months to recover from battle? I cannot imagine that happening. And we've seen characters at the brink of death before and everything like that, right? Loki has a Zoan fruits, his FN. Okay. His Devil Fruit has busted regen. You're right. Those things should fix it. Like, we did see Luffy recover from death, pretty much, to some degree at the very least, after he was still very injured, but he was able to come back to life, I suppose. So that's a big deal. I do have a fun little theory on Loki and Harold and what happened there. I do have a theory on Loki and Harold. I kind of want to... I want to drop it. I already know what I want to do for the video for next week, so I'm going to leave the Loki and Harold thing alone for the moment. But I might do the video after that. Yeah, let me make a little theory note. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think that Hajrudin is going to forgive Loki at some point, but it might take a little bit. I don't know if Hajrudin would just believe him right off the bat. The difficult thing with characters like this is that they don't like explaining the truth. Does that make sense? Like, they often don't feel the need to clear their own name. Like, think back to, like, Odin, right? Like, Odin fucking... Like, this is a One Piece classic, right? Odin fucking did all that shit throughout his life, and he didn't bother to explain why he's doing that stuff, right? In fact, lots of times he took on extra blame for no real reason, right? Like, he fucking... That's the first chapter we saw in how he earned Kinemon's loyalty and everything. He took the blame for Kinemon, right? Odin's whole life was basically doing things his way and not explaining himself, and therefore people assuming lots of things about him, like, oh, this dancing fool of a lord, oh, Odin's the shame of Wano, blah, 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 disown him, yada, yada, etc. And then all the way to the end, when he's fucking boiling in the pot, he still doesn't explain why he did everything he did. Fucking Shinobu has to come through and basically be like, this is why he's been doing it, blah, 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 blah. Like, you guys, do you understand now, right? Characters like that, they don't explain themselves. Like, fucking Zoro, when we first meet him, he doesn't explain the truth about, like, why he's tied up on the cross to Luffy or anything, or, like, what he actually did. He doesn't explain that shit. Senor Pink, right? Not exactly the same, but, like, he doesn't bother telling the people of the town. Like, he doesn't care. He will go about doing his life business the way that he does. He doesn't need to tell other people that, hey, my, it's because my wife is in the hospital or whatever. Everyone just makes fun of him, and he doesn't mind, right? So many of these fucking One Piece characters, and it's cool. Like, it's powerful the way that Oda writes these characters to really not give a shit about, like, defending themselves, because they know that that the path that they're walking is the right path. And by the way, this is stuff that comes out in next Tuesday's video. It's cool, but at the same time, how do I say this? At the same time, it can lead to lots of fucking misunderstandings because they don't do a good job explaining or trying to explain the truth, you know? Anyway, continuing on. Let's get the stream likes to 100 real quick. Mango, thanks for the 7. Check out the magazine cover. Oda locked in and changed Loki's hair. Not to mention the last time Luffy and Zoro appeared together was with Kaido. What's the magazine cover? What am I looking for here? So you guys told me to look at the... this is for JWP. I was looking at the volume cover. JWP, if someone's still there, what was the volume cover that I was supposed to look at? I know I was supposed to look at a volume cover. Can someone tell me what's the volume cover with Loki? Anybody? Also, what's the magazine cover? I don't know what these things are. Let me try looking up. One Piece newest volume. It doesn't say what the newest volume is. What is One Piece's newest volume? Volume 111? Okay, I found one. Okay. One Piece volume 111. Let's see. So this volume is, yeah, it's got Loki in the back. I don't know. I still don't think that means that Loki... I think Oda just does backgrounds that are exciting, like, or volume covers that are exciting, right? So, like, showing all the Strats in their new outfits, and then Loki in the background as, like, the first exciting figure of Elbaf. I think that's totally natural, you know? I wouldn't read too much into that in terms of Loki being a villain or not. He just doesn't seem like he's being written as a villain here, to me. One Piece magazine cover? What am I looking up there? I do know Luffy and Zoro at the start of Wano being on a magazine cover where they're both holding swords and Kaido's there. So what's here? JWP says, I sent a link on Donos at more. Oh, man, you don't have to do that, but thank you. Hold on. Shit. Okay, hold on, man. I found it. But, okay, I see. Let's see. Oh, is this to the magazine? Oh, this is to the magazine. Oh shit! Thanks, JWP. Thank you. Okay, okay. So we got that. Luffy's Sanji, Big Mom, Zoro. Okay, and then Zoro's Luffy in Wano. Then we got just Luffy and Kizaru. And then finally we got Luffy, Zoro, and Loki. So I don't know how much to read into that other than Luffy and Zoro have had the most screen time, character time in general out of the Strats so far in this arc. Loki is a Zoro parallel in many ways, down to his introduction, right? I don't think Elbaf is supposed to be like a Luffy Zoro centric arc. I just think it would be a little weird to have. So, like, if I recall correctly, at the time that this magazine cover came out that had Luffy and Zoro at the start and Kaido at the start of Wano, I think that we were in Act 1 of One Piece, which was already a very Luffy Zoro centric storyline, right? You would think that if it's supposed to reflect the arc as a whole, this Elbaf magazine cover would feature Luffy and Usopp, because we have hopes that Usopp is supposed to be important in this arc, at least more important than Zoro, you would hope. Even if I do hope that Zoro gets good shit this arc, but I hope not at the expense of Usopp, who needs it a lot more, frankly, right? So my feeling is that maybe this is just reflecting that right now, so far, it's been Luffy and Zoro, really, and I do think Zoro's going to be significant this arc, but I don't know how I feel about, like, it not... Also, it's a magazine, right? So it's a magazine, so at the end of the day, the goal is to sell. I don't think having Luffy and Usopp on a cover is as exciting as having Luffy and Zoro on a cover. Like, Luffy and Sanji and Big Mom, that works. Luffy, Zoro, and Kaido, that's of course going to work. Luffy, Kizaru, that'll work. Luffy, Usopp, I don't know if that's like a magazine selling cover. You know what I mean? That'd be my first thought. Also, let's get the streamlights up to 100 real quick. The fuck? Raven Hill. Wait, am I missing one? Hold on, I'm sorry, my chat's moving a little bit weird. Raven Hill, thanks for the 5. Is this the third to last chapter of One Piece? The third to last chapter of One Piece? No. Why would you say that? Is that a joke or something? Thanks, by the way, JWP, for sending the link. I don't think this is the third to last chapter of One Piece. Son, thanks a lot. Sommers is made for Sanji. Oda is cooking. Jesus Christ, something's happened in my chat. Hold on. There we go. Oda is cooking something. Yeah, I agree. Let me do a poll on that real quick. Sommers versus Sanji happening? Yes, no. I could also see it because, I don't know, I could see Sanji, like, breaking through the thorns to get to something or someone that he loves. Please don't let it be fucking Nami. I could see that being, like, a replay of the fucking Absalom fight. So, like, if Sommers has Nami under the fucking briar, like, thorn thing or something, and Sanji just powers through. Similarly, I imagine, like, Sanji being able to break through with flames or heat. That also makes sense. I definitely imagine a scenario where, like, where someone that Sanji loves, it's probably gonna be fucking Nami, is under control of the thorns, and Sanji just he doesn't give a shit and powers through. I could definitely imagine that being a thing. Ender Anami, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 30 months. Monthly reminder to read Kagurabachi. Source material is king for me since I highly value author intent, so I prefer anime originals over adaptations. Adaptations are fundamentally different experiences. I agree, man. Because honestly, I'm similar in a sense in that, like, even if I'm only experiencing a series in the anime, right? Like, let's say it's Demon Slayer, right? And I'm only experiencing Demon Slayer in the anime, right? Because I tried reading the Demon Slayer manga for like a chapter, and it was so ridiculously bad that I dropped it right away. So I'm only experiencing Demon Slayer through the anime, right? There's something about it in terms of like what I take as like canon or true, etc., that just feels important to me. So when I'm watching the anime, sometimes I will look up, like, did this actually happen in the manga? Is this a real thing or not? And then it bothers me when I find out that this was or wasn't the case. So it does, like, I agree with you in the sense that, like, I just feel better when I'm watching an anime that I know is just an anime rather than an adaptation of a manga that might be taking a lot of liberties, because you can almost also feel it very often when an anime like adds things that aren't or shouldn't be there, right? I mean, I remember like Vinland Saga, which has a phenomenal anime, like, or a very good anime adaptation. Like, I was watching season 1, and there's just some filler shit that happens between like Thorfinn and Leaf that's like recurring. That's really not good, and it feels fillery and dragged out. Like, you kind of get the point of it a little bit, like you only need it a little bit, but the anime keeps going back to it to pad time, and I'm like, man, in a fucking seasonal show like Vinland Saga, you don't need to keep doing this thing, because the manga ultimately communicated the same ideas but did it without beating the same thing in over our heads over and over again and making it just, it was done more subtly and more tastefully, right? Same also things with just in terms of like character stuff, like when there's like some fight stuff that's happening in an anime that I then find out, oh, the characters can't actually do that or didn't actually do that in the manga. That's often disappointing to me. So I agree with you there. At the same time, I've kind of like in recent times mentally sort of had a shift where I'm like, if an anime adaptation is like special enough and like different enough from the source material, like Demon Slayer, if you watch the fight at the end of like season 2, for example, and then compare it to going back to try and read the fight, it's so fundamentally, it's just so different. It's so different. The anime does so much, and it elevates the experience, and not just in terms of like the visuals, the production, etc. They change dialogue, and they change the way scenes play out. They add additional character beats and things like that, and it all elevates it to the point that I'm basically like, okay, some anime adaptations I separate out as basically being like, this thing is just treating the manga as like an outline of what it has to follow, but like I almost view it as like, I view the anime as the true adaptation. Obviously it's not, in terms, if you want to get into canon or whatever, you technically have to go to what's the manga, but I almost view it as like, to the point that like, you know, like when people talk about The Godfather, they're talking about like the film adaptation is so distinct and so its own thing that you can view it as different from the novel that it originated from, right? Like 2001: A Space Odyssey, same thing. Like Shogun, the TV series versus the novel, right? Like if things feel distinct enough as an adaptation, then I can start to view it as its own thing. Does that make sense? I don't view the One Piece anime like that, because the One Piece anime is like almost a one-to-one recreation of the One Piece manga, but just dragged out to hell, basically, in terms of every single beat and moment. So I don't view the One Piece anime like that, but some anime that I feel like distinguish themselves enough from the manga, I'm able to I just like contextualize it differently. I'm like, Demon Slayer the anime I almost view as a totally different thing than Demon Slayer the manga. Whereas like Hunter x Hunter the anime I view as like a clear one-to-one, like it is the manga, same story, what happens in the manga is the true canon. One Piece, same thing. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's just how I've kind of contextualized it for my own sanity. Like, I don't know what the solo leveling, what happens in the source material or whatever, and I'm probably never going to read it, so I'm just going to leave that be its own thing. I'm just going to treat the manga or the anime for what it is. But Kagurabachi, I have heard so many good things. It is actually on my list of things to read. Next. Dick so small, I piss on my balls, thanks for the 5. Scary that the government can make green blood from Sugar's DNA right now. I wonder if Luffy will be forgotten for a while. Can the government do that? I guess because they captured the Don Quixote pirates, so they took the swim fruit. Shit, I didn't even think about that. Is that how they got their hands on the swimming fruit? That'd be insane. I did not think about that. So people like Sanji versus Somers? Yeah, I think that's a solid possibility. Titanium Dragon, thanks for the 2. Zoro and Sanji's colors were swapped in the spread. I think somebody mentioned this. I don't remember who exactly, but somebody mentioned this, that like the recent volume cover follows, like, I know you're not talking about the volume cover, you're talking about the color spread. The recent volume cover follows a sort of trend of Oda, how do I say this, like making the Straw Hats a bit too Power Ranger themed in recent times, where like he kind of has started to really stick to each Straw Hat's distinct color for lots of volume covers and spreads, whereas before it was more varied. And now I can't get that out of my head. But as for this, yeah, I'm curious. I wonder why Oda went with blue for... You know, sometimes I would... So what's funny? You know what's funny is that, like, there was a time that I would think a little bit more about color spreads and, like, how Oda really comes up with the concept and how much thought and detail he puts into them and like all of that stuff. But then I watched videos, like just videos have happened over time of how Oda actually, like the drawing process of Oda's color spreads, right? The dude's just going off the cuff. Like, he's not actually putting that much. Like, it speaks to his creativity that he's able to just do this shit so effortlessly. Because I look at a color spread and I'm like, damn, holy shit, like, how much planning and vision do you need to put together this, like, this work of art, right? Especially some of his, like, better color spreads, right? But he can just shit these out pretty easily. If you watch videos of him actually just, like, time-lapse videos of him doing the color spreads, it's like he'll start with a concept and then be like, nah, let me redo this. Okay, let me just scrap this. Okay, and he'll just swap characters, swap scenes, swap entire themes. I remember there was that one color spread that came out that was like all the first mates of Yonko Cruz, or at least that's how everyone interpreted it, because it had like Zoro, Ben Beckman, Katakuri, yada yada. Like, it had all of those first mate types characters, and that sparked a lot of debate and discussion. And then if you go and actually watch, like, there's a video of Oda actually making the color spread. And if you watch him actually make it, he does it so, like, it's just, there's not a lot of, like, planned thought to it, right? It just becomes what it becomes over time. Like, Oda draws color spread. Oda drawing color spread. I'm trying to find the first mate one. Yeah, the right-hand man one.
Welcome back.
Hold on. I'm watching a video of it. Let me see so I'm not wrong. Yeah, it goes through a million iterations. First, it's like swordsman. Then it's like not swordsman. Then it's just like Zoro in the center. Like, Oda plays around with it like a million different ways. He just does a million different things with it. And then he's like, okay, I want Beppo in here. I don't know. It's just, there's not that much thought that goes into the color spread. So if you're saying like, Zoro's color is swapped with Sanji's in this or something like that, I wouldn't be surprised if Oda just felt like it in the moment. I don't think that there's that much like Frankie's purple, Usopp's purple. Sometimes Oda just does shit, you know? So I don't think that there's anything that crazy significant right there, but I don't know. It was kind of like when I actually started watching the videos of how Oda does color spreads, it was kind of like there is no Tooth Fairy kind of a moment where it's just like, okay, Oda doesn't have some sort of like deep-seated symbolism that he's trying to hide in every color spread. He's just going off the dude's probably like fucking like tired. It's like Thursday night or something. He just wants the week to be over with or whatever. He's just like, I gotta draw the struts, doing some shit. And he's got like a lot of creative ideas, obviously, but like it's not like he's not trying to hide deep symbolism each time or whatever. It's just like, all right, what if they're all fucking going down a waterfall? Okay, what if they're all going down a waterfall, but like Nami's boobs are huge? That's a good idea. Okay, they're all going down a waterfall. Nami's boobs are huge. We'll put her front and center, and I don't know, there's like ice cream in the background. There we go. Brilliant color spread. On to the next one. That's, I feel like, more so the process for a lot of them. JWP, thanks for the 5. Oh, we covered this. Thanks a lot, though, man. Twitter post about the volume cover-wise. Yeah. I see what you're saying there. I still don't think that... Okay, I get what you're saying here as well, because it's not the volume covers, it's the magazine things. I think Loki is just... He's presented early on as the most significant of the threats in Elbaf, right? So... And I think even at this point in time, Oda's trying to mask a little bit what the problem is in Elbaf, right? So, for example, the volume covers that are being talked about here, let me just show them really quick. All right? God damn it. Here, let me move this shit over. So, let me talk about what JWP is talking about here real quick. All right. So if we look here, right? These are past volume covers, right? So like Whole Cake Island, it was like Luffy, Sanji, and Big Mom, right? So you want to talk about Loki being the main villain, right? Kaido in the background is the villain. Kizaru in the background is the villain. Loki in the background is the villain, right? I personally feel like this is just Oda putting forward the most significant antagonist for, like, the most clear antagonistic force for the arc, if that makes sense. Like, we all knew that Big Mom, big bad of Whole Cake Island, right? At the end of the day, Luffy didn't even fight Big Mom, he fought Katakuri. Kaido, straightforward, right? You get to Egghead. Kizaru is the character in the background, but at the end of the day, would we say that Kizaru was the main antagonist of Egghead? No. The main antagonist of Egghead was Saturn, right? Saturn, and I suppose the rest of the Gorosei. I don't know what point in time this magazine cover came out, right? But the goal of the magazines, you want to sell the magazines, right? So you want to put something exciting, and you just want to put, like, something that's a clear, exciting sort of conflict right there, right? So in that sense, yeah, like, fucking Luffy versus Kizaru, Luffy versus an Admiral, that's the matchup that we were all really looking forward to over the course of the arc, right? At the end of the day, that was just, like, the tip of the iceberg to the climax. Like, Luffy fought Kizaru, but that was kind of a warm-up to the rest of the big battle that took place between, like, Saturn coming through, the Gorosei all showing up, all of the shit that followed after that, right? I don't think anyone would say that Kizaru was, like, ultimately the main antagonist of Egghead, and if anything, it kind of shifted towards him being, in a way, he even helped Luffy in the final battle, right? Like, giving him food and everything like that. He was the tragic figure at the end of it all, right? So looking at this, right? Loki is the most exciting character and most exciting antagonistic figure so far in Elbaf, right? Shamrock on paper might be, but we really don't know what Oda's goals are for the arc. Like, we've gotten a glimpse of Shamrock. He hasn't done anything. Like, he hasn't gotten that dramatic of an entrance, right? We're still waiting on him to do things. It's not the same as just slapping on, like, Big Mom, Kaido, Kizaru and Admiral, like Yonko, Admiral. Like, those are characters that have already had their build-up, had their impact. We have pre-built-in excitement to wanting to see our heroes fight them, so they're good for marketing, right? Loki right now is a more marketable figure, I feel like, than Shamrock as an antagonist, because Loki's just had more build-up, more hype, more excitement around him so far in the storyline. I wouldn't be surprised if Shamrock is stronger, but we still don't know what the direction of Elbaf is. Shamrock was here for a couple chapters. He fucking left. We don't, like, there just hasn't been, like, he's like the shadow villain, right? I guess Shamrock, you could say, is equivalent in the same sense that, like, in Egghead, we knew that Saturn's showing up, but we didn't really get a full idea of how strong Saturn was, how strong the Gorosei were, till, like, very, very late in the arc, and we really didn't understand that they were the main villains till very late in the arc. I feel like in Elbaf, Loki, clear, big antagonistic force, hype, crazy introduction, yada, 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 all of that stuff. Shamrock's this dude that's, like, this hidden boss, it seems like, of the Elbaf arc. He showed up for a little bit, very little to his introduction. We just learned that the character fucking exists in general. We don't know what to make of him, don't know how strong he is or whatever, and he left. So you need someone on that cover. Loki makes the most sense to put on there from a marketing perspective. That's my end of thoughts on that. Luke D. Fernando, thanks for the 2. God's Knights are the Aizen of One Piece, hidden. I don't think the God's Knights are the Aizen. I don't think they're. I don't think they're the gods. I don't think so. I think they're gonna be interesting villains, that's for sure. But I think that they're not, like. I don't know. Let's see how smart they are. Let's see how significant they are in the grand scheme of things. There's a lot of God's Knights. Like, there's only one of Aizen. I think there's a lot of places in which that's like a. I don't know about that analogy as much. Titanium Dragon, thanks for the 5. Funny that Loki and Hajrudin are both Thor and Loki put together, except Loki, One Piece, got all the cool stuff, while Hajrudin got the mundane stuff. That's a phenomenal point. Like, Loki in mythology not being the, how do you say, like he wasn't technically the true heir to the throne, or, like, he was an adopted brother or whatever. Loki's not, or, Hajrudin's not a fucking mixing shit up, right? Like, you could say, like, if you took Loki and mythology's asshole traits and transferred them into, you know what it is? I feel like if you take Thor and Loki from mythology, right? I think, and you take Loki's asshole traits in mythology and put them and put them into Thor's body, and you take Thor's, like, I guess, noble traits and put it into the weaker brother. I think that's kind of what you got here. It's like a swapping of that, if that makes sense. Except Hajrudin is also the adopted brother, like, the not not royal family heir in this scenario as well. Like, it is I never thought about it like that. It's a bit of Thor and Loki being like a bit of sorry, Loki and Hajrudin being a bit of a mix and match of like the Norse mythology Thor and Loki traits. I think that is very interesting. I'm saying thanks for the 2. Morge definitely one of those kids bullying Hajrudin. Hey, if that dirty blooded bastard is trying to come for Loki's rightful throne, fuck yeah, I would help bully him. Get out of here. I'm sorry, I'm sure that we will feel very sad for Hajrudin once the backstory comes. I do feel like Loki probably was a little shit growing up. I don't think Loki will be one of those traditional... I don't think Loki will necessarily be one of those traditional, like, super empathetic, tragic backstory characters. I think he's going to be a bit more complex. He probably was, like, a bit of an asshole growing up, but at the same time, he probably is not as evil as the people of Elbaf think. I think there's more to him there. Meek, thanks for the 2. Morge Def would bully Hajrudin 100%. All right, enough. I wouldn't bully him unless he was trying to come for the throne, in which case, get out of here. Go fight Makfis again, or a fucking moose. Man can't even carry a moose back up the island by himself. He has to ask fucking Stanson or whoever for help. No wonder he can't fucking pick up Ragnar. Does Ragnar weigh more than a moose? Probably. My God. Ravenhill, thanks for the 5. Third to last arc, I meant, sorry. Third to last arc. I low-key think, I'm going to use a different turn of phrase. I think that, this could be the penultimate arc of One Piece, actually. Because I'm beginning to feel more and more like the final war is gonna be just one fucking gigantic arc that is also going to include the race to Laugh Tale within it. I'm trying to still figure out, is the final war going to be a big, like, is everything gonna go down at Marijua, or is everything gonna go down at Laugh Tale, or are these things gonna mesh together in some sense? I'm trying to figure that part out. I feel like there is gonna be a bit more overlap than people... I think Oda's setting up for... Because part of it is the way that Oda has phrased things in the past. Like, he's talked about how he wants to draw the final chapter, draw the final arc. Like, a lot of it sounds as though... Because a lot of the differentiation that we've had in the past in terms of, like, assuming that Laugh Tale is going to be an arc that happens and then the final war, that's been traditional One Piece readers' beliefs, right? Like, not everybody, right? But that's kind of a common discussion in the fandom, right? Like, we'll have Laugh Tale where we maybe deal with Blackbeard and then the final war. It feels like more and more Oda's kind of setting things up to all go down in one gigantic arc. It feels like everything is being set up for one huge big finale, rather than a pieced out, like, half storyline here, half storyline there. That's the sense that I've been getting more and more. Like, we're about to go out with, like, a huge bang rather than, like, one big storyline, then another bigger storyline. Like, it feels like everything's going to come to a head all in one go. Like, a lot of the way that things have been pointing. So, I don't know. I feel like this could be the second to last arc almost. And then the last arc is just one gigantic arc. You know, like, Wano was 150 chapters. I wouldn't be surprised if we're looking at something similar to close out the story. If you want to count post-arc stuff, like an epilogue, then sure, maybe this is the third to last arc. But I feel like this might be the second to last, which is kind of crazy to say, but I think that that's possible. Carnation, thanks for the 5. He could break through the thorns like Luffy broke through Don Krieg's defense. Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be a nice little callback. I like that idea a lot, especially because Sanji was kind of in awe of what Luffy was doing back then. But Sanji can summon that sort of conviction as well. It's just for the things that he's really passionate about, right? I'm saying thanks to the 2. Luffy calling Hajrudin a bastard. More just Loki confirmed. Hey, Loki's a great character. Loki is genuinely shaping up to be, I think, one of the coolest side characters that we've ever had in One Piece. And I think one of the coolest characters that we've had in One Piece, period. I think Loki's really got a... Like, I think he's heading in that direction for me. JWP, thanks for the 5. We still need to get his actual story, you know what I mean? Like, there was a long time that I thought that Kaido was setting up to be the best villain in One Piece. Like, the best villain in One Piece. And this is independent of raid fail stuff whatsoever. Like, whether the raid failed or not, I was really, really high on the Kaido like train for a lot of. He was. I think I kept saying throughout my chapter reviews that Kaido was my favorite part of Onigashima while it was going on, largely because it felt like so many of the things that he's talking about, I thought that we were setting up for like a really, really interesting backstory, right? And then we get to Kaido's backstory, and it's like, never mind, it's the most ass backstory in the entire story, in the entire series, right? And then it's like, well, Kaido still has a lot of depth if you piece together all of his like bits of dialogue. It's like, well, no, he has like conceptually there's some interesting stuff going on there. Like on in theory, he's like a very interesting character. But in terms of like the actual story that we got out of him, like what is the story that Oda presents to us, right? His backstory is terrible. It's genuinely terrible, right? So it's very different from like when an author is dropping lots of like little bits and pieces of the character that are kind of like creating the outline for a very interesting character, and you're like getting excited. You're like, oh my God, like he's dropping so many little bits and pieces that are creating the outline of a very, very interesting character. I can't wait to actually get to truly get the story of this character. And then the author ends it with like, well, no, it was just the outline. That was basically it. Like, I gave you the outline. And it's like, okay, cool. That's not that's not really one of the best villains of all time then, is it? You got an outline of a really good villain, but you don't actually get the story to go with it. So it could go that way with Loki, right? Like, we've got so many pieces here for a really phenomenal character, and then at the end of the day, maybe the backstory is like a page where it's just like, I don't want to kill you, Dad, but something kills his dad. And the Drives of Elbaf are like, why'd you do that? He's like, you guys don't understand me. And then he gets tied up, and then that could be the end of the backstory. Like, that's a possibility. JWP, thanks for the 5. Praying that Robin is caught by the thorns and Sanji has to save her to parallel the Wano scenes. Plus, killing him stocks are high. I love his fruit so much. Yeah, his fruit is cool. His fruit is cool, and he seemed very anxiety-ridden and a bit scared at his like introduction. But from this chapter, he seems like a little bit confident in himself. You know, like he's not like he's not just like all shaky and squirmy or whatever. Like he seems like a capable God's Knight. I imagine you have to be capable to become a God's Knight, right? Like you can't just have any weak links in there. Also, as for Robin getting caught by thorns, that would be cool to parallel the Wano seeds. I would agree. It's because like it's almost a direct parallel in that in Wano, Sanji was caught by a web and Robin came through and saved him, and then here Robin being tied up with thorns and Sanji coming through to save her. I think that'd be cool. The only thing I'd say about that is just like, I feel like it'd be better if it was Nami, just because the Sanji-Nami dynamic is such a played up thing throughout One Piece, and like, it just feels like Sanji obviously likes and cares about Robin a lot, but it's not this sort of obsessive love like he has for Nami. So I'm sure Sanji would be able to break through the thorns for Robin. I'm not saying he can't do that. I'm just saying that, like, I think it's like capitalizing on a more played up dynamic for me in the story. If it's like Nami that's taught, like if you're building up a lot, like, man, no one can get through Somers' thorns, like it's just not doable. It's not doable. And then it's like, and then you see Sanji seeing Nami, like his fucking obsessive love crush since like fucking day one, tied up in thorns. And then it's just like, oh shit, you know what's about to happen. Kind of like with the Absalom fight, right? It's like, all right, Absalom thinks he's going to marry Nami, but like the moment Sanji hears about that, you just know what's up. Like, you know a fucking like explosive freight train is coming basically for Absalom, and he's just fucked because we've spent so much time and like so many recurring gags and moments throughout the story of, one, how passionate Sanji is, and two, how much of his passion and love is specifically based around one character in particular that is his base, like that is essentially his obsession, right? So I just think that there's like, I think the callback would be good with Robin, but I think just the long-term story build-up and power and impact of just seeing like Sanji go absolute berserk mode and tear through the thorns perfectly fine hits harder with Nami, just because there's so much more story behind that, and it's just such a recurring character gag and character dynamic. So that'd be my preference, but I would still be cool writing to see it be with Robin just to repay that favor. I do think at the same time with it being Robin, I think part of it is also that it's not a favor that needs to be repaid, and that's kind of the point. You know, like, Robin has always relied on the other Strats to come through for her, and Sanji has plenty of time throughout the story, right? I mean, all of Enies Lobby and everything like that, right? So Sanji is always loath to ask for help from others, basically. So Sanji, for one time, basically asking for help from Robin without any sort of, like, expectation of, like, oh, I owe her, or I'm in her debt, or, like, I need to pay her back, or, like, and no expectation from her either, just being happy to help out Sanji with no, so, like, her help him out the way the crew has always helped her out. I think that can just sit there and be what it was, in my opinion. I still think it'd be a cool callback, but I just think Sanji going berserk and, like, literally exploding in flames, seeing Nami captured by thorns or whatever, I think that'd be cool to see again. Hiyo, thanks for the 5. It's probably nothing, but Ange didn't get thorns when she touched the kids. What? Hiyo, that's not nothing. That's something. Oh my god, what the fuck? What are you talking about? That's huge. That's fucking huge. Oh my god. Hiyo, that's a great point. Hold on. I'm going to jot that down, and if that turns into something, you will be credited in the video. Oh my god. Are other people... what the fuck? That's huge. Because, like, anybody else would have touched the kids to find out, right? No, okay, hold on. 9 of them are walking away, but they're still unconscious. Maybe not all the kids have the thorns on them. Maybe it's just the ones that are walking away. But in that case, why didn't she try and touch the ones that are walking away? Did they get too far away? Tapio Treviso says, we had Ange Traitor theory for a good while. Yeah, like, I ran a poll for it at the beginning of the discussion, and actually... I think 60% of people 65% of people voted no. But I'm like, this is like a pretty big, it's not that it's like mind blowing that Ange is a traitor. It's just it's just like a big piece of evidence that I think I haven't seen people mention yet. House says, I don't know what I could have forgot, Elmio. Yeah, he could have forgot. Aespa Comeback says every arc has a traitor now. Yeah, I think it does make things a little juicy and interesting. I go back to like chapter 801 where Doflamingo is giving his big opening declaration. He's like, who will betray whom? Yada, yada. Like, that's supposed to be, I think, like a big hallmark of, like a staple of One Piece arcs from here on. It's just been, and it's made for good moments, right? Like, if we think throughout One Piece, since that Doflamingo moment, right? That Doflamingo speech, like, you have Whole Cake Island where, like, Zoe is where they establish, okay, there's probably a traitor amongst the Alliance ranks, right? Whole Cake Island, you've got, obviously, Pudding. That was a really good reveal. That was a really memorable chapter. The Pudding reveal chapter. And what it did to Sanji. You got Wano, and it's got Kanjuro. Again, very memorable chapter. JWP, thanks for gifting 5, man. Holy shit. We got a lot of gifted memberships this stream. Thank you so much, man. I'm glad you're enjoying Elbaf. I hope you're enjoying the stream, man. Thanks a lot, as usual. Everybody say thanks to JWP. Everyone should just always say thanks to JWP because he's always coming through, just handing out memberships like candy. I really appreciate it, man. Dex, Eric Reed, Iceman, Savage, Cabj. Just all make sure to say thanks to JWP. Yeah. Yeah, we had our Traitor and Wano. I think they've all been actually, yeah, like, quick question for you guys. Like, we had several Traitor reveals, right? We had, I think the iconic one from each arc is the Pudding reveal moment, the Kanjuro reveal moment, and then the York reveal moment, with her, like, kneeling down in front of Vegapunk. You could argue Stussy as well. I think those are all very good moments. So I'm not trying to say that, like, it's a played out storyline, because I think now we can kind of expect there being a traitor every arc. It does spice things up. Which one did you guys like the best? I think that has become, this has become a pattern in One Piece. Best traitor reveal moment. Pudding in Whole Cake Island, Kanjuro in Wano, York in Egghead. I personally lean towards Pudding's being the best. I think Kanjuro had the best panel. Kanjuro's panel is pretty iconic. I think Pudding's was the best because it was genuinely a surprise. Like Kanjuro, it was a surprise, obviously. I mean, I know people had predicted it. I think Marco, the One Piece theorist, had that's his channel name. He had predicted it, for example. But in Wano, like it didn't help that in Zou and Wano, it was talked about a lot that there's a traitor. So we're all just like, there's a traitor. We know that the shoe is going to drop at some point. In Whole Cake, I think the emotional whiplash of Pudding, like it was already a very low point in the arc where Luffy and Sanji had just had their big fight. Sanji is at his absolute lowest. He's just had this very emotional scene with Pudding where like she's his one like saving grace, his one source of comfort amidst all of this, right? Luffy and Nami are now trapped by Big Mom. They're in prison. So everything's really heavy as is. And then on top of all that, Pudding reveals that she was just fucking with Sanji. It's less of a plot crazy reveal, I think. I don't know how you measure those things exactly, but I think Pudding's was the most emotionally jarring because I think we, the reader, were somewhat liking Pudding as a character, and she had really lulled us in, and we were already at an emotionally heavy place, and that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of just making things really fucking depressing for Sanji. So there's that. Whereas with Kanjuro, it was like, I don't think anyone ever really cared about Kanjuro the character, so it was just like, it's gonna be a scabbard. Kanjuro's probably like not the craziest pick out, like it's pretty generic as far as scabbards go, but Kanjuro's reveal also came at an emotionally heavy point where the scabbards were really down, like they were really upset, right? Not upset's an understatement. They were really down. They thought no one had showed up to the raid. Like the entire atmosphere, we just got the Odin flashback, so the entire atmosphere is very, very heavy. And then on top of all that, we got the Kanjuro reveal, so that came at a very good point emotionally as well, I would say. I think it's just the difference is that like Pudding as a character was more integral so far to the Whole Cake Island storyline and Sanji's personal storyline. So like it was very personal in terms of like, oh my god, Pudding, Sanji's one lifeline in all of this, suddenly broke his trust. Whereas with the scabbards, it's like there's fucking 9 scabbards, so like any of them revealing themselves to be the traitor, it's like it is what it is. But Kanjuro's panel is very iconic. That's the big thing. I think in terms of presentation, because the face that he makes and like the makeup and everything like that, and how sinister he looks after that, I think that's very, very powerful. So I think it makes the most iconic moment. I think Pudding's reveal is best for the story. Kanjuro's reveal, I think, doesn't matter that much in the grand scheme of things, whereas Pudding actually leads to good character shit overall. But Kanjuro's moment is probably one of the cooler moments in Wano, I would think. I guess so is Pudding's. Pudding's, I think, actually, I remember more so for Sanji's reaction. I think Sanji's reaction was very sad, like him crying in the rain and everything like that. Like, that was a heavy-ass chapter. Beyond that, York's reveal. So I think York's reveal was good as far as the reveals go, because if it had to be a satellite, I think Oda did manage to go with like the best twist on which satellite it was. Just because York is the one that we all kind of just mostly looked under like and Oda did a good job throwing us off her trail with her turning the stone and everything like that. I just think that it was the worst traitor storyline out of the 3 storylines, because the Pudding one, the strength was that we didn't know that there was a traitor. That wasn't signposted for us. So it actually hits you out of nowhere when Pudding is revealed to be a traitor. With the Wano one, we'd been told forever that there was a traitor. We just didn't know when it was going to be revealed or at what time, right? But we'd all been looking, and every character had been examined as a traitor. But the timing of it, Oda really nailed, and like the moment he really nailed very well. So the Wano traitor reveal was very good. And then the Egghead traitor storyline, I think this was the weakest out of the 3, because there already wasn't that much exciting stuff happening at that point in Egghead. Like, we were waiting on the Buster Call to arrive, But Oda basically pauses everything and is like, okay, while we wait for that, there's a traitor, everybody. Let's all search for clues to find this traitor scenario, right? So the entire story grinds to a halt just to separate everybody out to find this traitor, and that just becomes once finding the traitor becomes the primary focus for like 5 straight chapters, it's not as exciting as just having it happen out of the blue or having it being a background plot line. Like, then it's just fucking Scooby-Doo for a little bit with some inconsequential fight scenes with the Seraphim that don't actually go anywhere. And then it's like, then you reveal that it's York or whatever. I think that's just due to the fact that Oda didn't have any other storyline to really be running in Egghead at that point. I think that he should have planted the traitor storyline in Egghead a little bit earlier so that other plot lines could have developed, and then the traitor's plotline is something in the background that then gets surprise revealed to us. I don't know. I'm going off on a long tangent with this here. Anyway, yeah, I think Kanjuro is the best moment. I would agree with that. I think Puddings was the better traitor storyline in terms of like the emotional impact it had, and the surprise factor of there just being a betrayal right there. But Kanjuro's is a very iconic panel. I think it's one of the more iconic panels in the last several hundred chapters. Anyway, I don't see Ange being on track to being that level of traitor just because everyone's suspicions are already on her at the moment, you know? Continuing on. Yeah, Kanjuro was one of the moments in Wano. I agree. I think with Pudding, the moment was more so the effect that it had. I think that scene was really good with the effect that, like, how it really broke Sanji. I thought that was a really good scene for a whole cake. All right. Yeah, if Ange is a traitor here, then it's just worse than all of the other traitor reveals, basically. But Elbaf is already doing so many other things really well. Hiai Stand 69, that's a Yu Hakusho reference. Thanks for the 2. Anyone buying Killing Him versus Usopp stocks? So here's my quick thoughts. If we're going to get some matchups against God's Knights, I feel like if we're getting some matchups against God's Knights, my initial guesses are Sanji versus Sommers. I think Usopp versus Killing Him, and I think that would be a really, really important fight for Usopp to get and to win, because 1, it allows him to face fears, right? Killing Him has that ability. 2, Killing Him is ultimately like the source of a lot of the problems of Elbaf, right? Like, the monsters are a problem. The monsters are the biggest obstacle. The thorns around the kids are an obstacle, but that's one that can be dealt with on paper. Like, there's workarounds to that, but like the monsters are like actually like the primary enemies that they're having to deal with, that are stopping them from like being able to deal with this like in a calm environment, if that makes sense, right? So Usopp ending essentially the giant scourge that has fallen upon Wano, I think that would be really, really good for him. And finally, I think Bonnie versus Gunko is one that we're gonna get. I think that there is some Revolutionary Army tie in there. I think Bonnie's fruit works really well in like symbolically as a matchup with Gunko's fruit. I think that there's something that's going to happen there. All right. Let me try and get through these a little bit faster. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 150 real quick. I'm saying, thanks for the 2. Thoughts on Acrobatic, Silky, backstory, and Dandadan? I liked it a lot. I did not read the manga version of it. I know some people are saying that the manga version had some panel or some moment that was a little bit that was missing from the anime, or might be not understanding. But I thought the anime did it really, really well. The one thing I'd say about it is that like this isn't about it. I got spoiled on it a little bit in that there's a shot of, without spoiling too much for you all, watch Dandadan if you haven't already, but I'll just say this. There's a shot of her dancing with a beautiful background, okay? I saw that shot come up on my Twitter feed multiple times when the episode came out, and it is a beautiful shot. So when I actually got to watch the backstory in the anime, I think that shot would have hit a lot harder in context if I didn't already know that it was coming. But I already knew that beautiful shot was coming. I think just, how do I say this? It was a really good backstory to me. I really liked it. I was emotionally affected by it. I think that I think I just heard too much build-up around it. So when you know a really sad backstory is coming, it hits a little bit different. And you've already seen some shots of it or whatever. It's just a little bit different than when it comes out of nowhere and you don't expect there to be like that sad of a backstory or whatever. But I thought it was really, really good. And I think especially considering how early it comes in Dandadan, that's a big deal. Because it's just like, damn, it probably only goes uphill from here, right? So I thought that was really strong. I think that's a really strong thing to have early in a story. Just to cement. I feel like with manga and anime or whatever, lots of series, you kind of get the idea of like the quality of what you're going to be getting pretty early on, right? Like sometimes series have difficulty maintaining it, but you get the idea between like, okay, am I reading, like, how to explain? Like something like Black Clover, which I fully enjoy. I really like Black Clover. I think it gets a lot of unwarranted hate or mocking or whatever. But you just know when you're reading, you can read the first 20, 30 chapters of Black Clover, and you're going to know that you're not going to get something like an Acrobat Silky sort of little backstory or character writing, right? You're going to get solid pieces of character writing throughout it, because you do get solid pieces of character writing in Black Clover, but you kind of get the idea of like how evolved the overall storytelling of Black Clover is. And it's basically like, okay, this is going to be a solid, enjoyable shonen series, right? For the most part, basically. There's moments that happen early on in story, like Acrobat Silky, I think, is something that happens early on that quickly establishes that like Dandadan is going to have more evolved moments of storytelling than your traditional shonen, right? It establishes that pretty early on. I think that's an important bit. One Piece, I would say the similar thing is like Arlong Park, although that does come a little bit later. One Piece did come out at a different time, I would say, but like Arlong Park establishes that pretty early on. I'd say Naruto establishes that shit really fucking early on with its first arc, and I think that's why Naruto's got like one of the strongest first arcs, like if you call it the first arc, right? The Mist Zabuza arc, right? That's just my thought. I think it just sets a good benchmark for like, okay, if I keep like this writer has really, really good ideas that are going to tell like a little bit more, it sounds pretentious, but I guess a little bit more like sophisticated storylines in terms of like where they go in terms of writing, emotion, things like that, right? So I think that's just a quick thought. Anyway, I did think Acrobat Silky was important to establish that for the series. Like it establishes what type of series this is going to be. Like how much stock are we going to be putting in this story? Cup, thanks for the 5. I like Kaido's backstory. It shows there was nothing else of note in his life except war and battle. Also, Wano analysis when. I mean, yeah, it does show that, but like, it can show that without actually being that interesting of a way to execute it as a concept, right? It can still feel like a very rushed concept in terms of presentation, which is, it gets the idea across, but like, you could say that about so many different backstories in One Piece. Like, you could take, for example, with Robin, right? You could condense her backstory into like a montage, if you just read chapter 398, which is the last chapter for backstory, and it establishes like it's a quick montage of her life post the O'Hara incident. It's like, okay, it establishes the pain and ostracization and like betrayal that Robin experienced all her life growing up. But what really makes a backstory hit tends to be when you take your time with it a little bit more and draw out a sort of series of events and just like really take the reader into what the character was feeling and experiencing at every point, and actually like give some time to write out full scenes, full chapters, whatever. Like, it doesn't even have to be a full chapter. I think that the Senor Pink backstory fucking took us more in the moment and into Senor Pink's life and his experiences than Kaido's backstory did. And the simplest thing I can say about Kaido's backstory is that there is no reason. It's just the simple fact that Oda wrote that backstory during... I still can't fucking believe this. During the final clash. It happened during the final clash. Like, it is impossible for it not to be rushed. It is impossible to take your time with that backstory whatsoever, because all the momentum of the narrative is centered around a clash that is literally happening right now, right? So all the momentum is geared towards action, towards a big finale, right? Flashbacks aren't action. They're not a big finale. Good flashbacks are moments of like stepping back away from the action and allowing the just character writing and the storytelling to breathe and taking you through a sense of drama or whatever. The moment that you're trying to squeeze in Kaido's backstory during a climax, it can't be a fucking good backstory at that point, right? Now you might say, well, Senor Pink's backstory, that took place during a climax. The difference is that Senor Pink's backstory took place in the climax of a fight that was a fairly empty fight from start to finish. Like Frankie versus Senor Pink, the actual action of it, it was almost filler that was happening in the background. Like both of them were just doing suplexes back and forth. There wasn't anything real really going on there. And so with that, it was kind of the reverse, where the fight was just like a sort of framework that's set up for the beauty of Senor Pink's flashback. Whereas with like Luffy and Kaido, that's a fucking 50 chapter fight that we've been reading. All of Wano's writing on this, it's all led up to this gigantic clash. The clash has already been going on for 3 chapters. And then Oda's like, oh, I forgot. I didn't tell them enough about Kaido. Here you go. Here's what happened basically. Is it that mind-blowing? Is it anything that different than we already kind of figured? No, but I needed to fit it in. Because I don't know, maybe there just wasn't a point. It just makes no sense. Like, I cannot think of another series where it would ever make sense. Like I can't imagine Doflamingo's fucking flashback happening during King Kongan. That would fucking destroy the momentum of that chapter. Imagine fucking Lucci's flashback happening during Jet Gatling. That would destroy all the emotional momentum of what's happening with Jet Gatling, right? Like, amidst all of Luffy's emotions and feelings, etc., we're fucking cutting to Lucci's backstory? How the fuck would that make sense, right? Like, fucking anything. Luffy versus Crocodile. Like, Luffy's fighting for Alabasta to free the land, etc. He's delivering this Gomu Gomu no Storm. As Luffy's fucking punching Crocodile, we cut to some backstory of Crocodile. Why the fuck would we be getting a backstory of Crocodile right then? How does that play into the emotion of what we're supposed to be feeling right here? The sense of catharsis as Luffy is defeating that. Like, it's so... It's so contradictory to all of the emotion that we normally are made to feel during One Piece's climaxes, because you just wouldn't fucking have a villain backstory take place all of a sudden in such a rushed manner, this forced exposition, when we're supposed to be just feeling pure cathartic emotion. It just doesn't fucking make any sense. Anyway, continuing on. Ravenhill, thanks for the 5. Does Oda have someone who knows the end of One Piece that can finish it if something happens to him? I'm sure he does. I'm sure he's told the editors the end of One Piece, so they at least know it. But I thought about this a little bit. And it's just like, if Oda were to pass away, God forbid, but like, let's say if that were to happen, right? The version of the ending of One Piece that we get is simply not going to be fully accurate to his vision. The reason being that, like, I'm just imagining, like, okay, let's say I myself were handed the manuscript of One Piece, right? And I think this applies to any fan, right? Any fan who's being honest with themselves. Let's say you yourself were being handed the manuscript to One Piece, right? We all have certain things in the story that we like a little bit more, things that we don't care for as much or something like that, right? If you're given the general outline, characters that we like more or less, right? If you're given the general outline of how One Piece ends, and you're going through it, and you're seeing, like, in the manuscript, like, oh, Oda says that for this arc, there's supposed to be, like, 33 side characters or something like that, right? And, like, this, you see, like, a whole bunch of stuff. There's going to be some small part of you that, like, even if Oda's saying this or that, like, you are not, like, in terms of executing it, right? There's going to be some part of you that's, like, just intuitively amplifying certain parts of the story or putting more attention to certain parts of the story than, like, maybe other parts of the story, right? Like, because you're not going to have his same brain, and what you're thinking is good or the strengths of what's happening is going to be a little bit different, right? Same with characters, right? Like, if you are, like, everyone has their favorite characters, their preferences, etc. If you handed me the manuscript for One Piece, and it's saying certain things are supposed to happen for, let's say, Trafalgar Law, right? I would still have those things happen, but maybe I just wouldn't make, like, maybe I'd condense it to half a chapter, where in Oda's mind it would have been, like, 3 chapters of law focus or something. Does that make sense? Just no matter what, like, if you were given the outline of the rest of Elbaf, you would probably go through, like, you would probably be honest to Oda's wishes, but how those wishes manifest is going to be totally up to, like, the small biases and storytelling preferences of each person, because we can't know in our head how much time Oda's thinking, or, like, how Oda's thinking of presenting certain characters, or how Oda, like how much Oda wants a certain character to get more or less chapter time, things like that, or how much emphasis Oda wants to place on this. Like, all the minutia is going to change, basically. So we would never get his true final vision. We would get the bullet points, right? I think that's just the way it would be. Dreams, thanks for the 5. Regarding Kaido's backstory, didn't Oda admit rushing the wrap-up of Wano for Film Red? I don't think he ever said that specifically. He said something, but I don't know if it was literally trying to wrap it up for Film Red. I also don't think he literally rushed the ending of Wano for that movie, because Wano did end at about 150 chapters, right? So, like, I think almost exactly 150 chapters. So I think Wano was pretty much exactly how long Oda wanted to be. I think it's more so the rushed aspect, from my point of view, is more so that, like, he wanted to be, I think he wanted it to be 150 chapters. I think he may have overestimated how much he can fit in those 150 chapters. That's why, especially when you read Onigashima, there's lots of little things that seem like they're superfluous or are being set up for no real reason, and Oda kind of crosses them off a couple chapters later as being unimportant or resolved off screen or something like that. Because I think as he's going, he's starting to realize, like, okay, I can't fit all this in the next stretch of like 10 chapters, so let me just tighten up a little bit here. Okay, I can't fit all this, let me tighten up here. And I think that was probably the way that it went. So I don't think it was rushed in the sense that, like, oh, I'm trying to finish for Film Red. It's more so like, I don't want it to go past this chapter count. So ultimately, certain things are going to be shaved as I'm going through the fights, as I'm going through each beat of the story or whatever, and that's just what we get to at the end of it, basically. Cup, thanks for the 5. Also, I'm thinking either a Water 7 / any slobby type of deal or big war, then a big celebration on the way to Laugh-Tale. I just don't know, man. Big celebration on the way to Laugh-Tale. Like, so you think Laugh-Tale comes last? I don't know if last. I think it could all be one big thing, and I think it could all conclude with one giant feast. I'm not sure. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 150. Fading Phase, thanks for the 5. Morch, I'm beginning to think that we're getting the Winds of Winter before we get your Wano analysis. I hope we get to see the Man Bun debut. You will get to see both the Wano analysis and the Man Bun debut. I don't know if we'll ever get to see Winds of Winter. Uchek, thanks for being a Pirate King to your member for 30 months. Random question / something I may have missed. Did we ever get confirmation that Shanks was the one seen fighting Kaido before he showed up in Marineford and it wasn't actually a Shamrock sighting? Check, first of all, thank you very, very much for the Pirate King support for so fucking long, man. Seriously, I really do appreciate it. I do think that the Vivre cards confirmed. I checked it myself. I think the Vivre cards confirmed that the Beast Pirates like Kaido and King were stopped by the red-haired pirates specifically, not Shamrock. So if it turns out it was Shamrock, then that means that officially the Vivre cards can no longer be trusted. I think there's already been little discrepancies with the Vivre cards, but like then they sometimes get retconned or changed or something. But I think this would probably be the first like really big just false thing in a Vivre card, because I think it straight up says like in Kaido and King's timeline that they get stopped by the red-haired pirates. Bunfagum, thanks for the 5. Love how the Giants are portrayed as completely incompetent this chapter, with them being drunk and failing miserably to put the fires out. Yeah, man. The Giants kind of suck so far. They kind of suck. I think Loki's the only cool giant, and I guess Harold was the other cool giant. I think that even just the fact that they were so scared of their ship being like the giant skeleton, right? I think that's just not a good look, because like these giants are supposed to be really fucking brave, and it's not just like the pacifist giants nowadays. Like isn't this supposed to be fucking? Like, yeah, it's like Dorian, Brogy, and like brave giant warrior pirates are freaking out over that, you know? To be fair, the Strahd pirates sometimes freak out like that over things. But like, this is supposed to be like Dorian Brogy, like the bravest of the brave characters, you know? JWP, thanks for the 5, man. Fading Phase mentioned Viola and Dressrosa as a traitor. Thoughts? Yeah, so we also had Kyoshiro as the traitor in... Denjiro as the traitor in Wano. So we've had... if I'm being super specific, I think that every arc has had traitors on either side. I think that's been kind of the fun of it, right? So, or betrayers on either side, right? So, if we look back at Whole Cake Island, right? We had, on the one hand, right? And these things kind of coincide, right? So, I like that Oda does the parallels pretty neatly so far. So, on the one hand, we had... Actually, this has got me thinking a little bit about Elbaf. Yeah, it's got me thinking. Okay, I'll revisit my thoughts on Gunko here, but so let's backtrack. I think this is kind of interesting. So Whole Cake, around the same time that it was revealed that Pudding was playing the Straw Hats and actually was like Pudding was pretending to be on their side, but she actually was planning to help Big Mom murder Sanji and all of Germa, right? Around the same time that was revealed, it was shortly afterwards revealed Beija's plan to betray Big Mom and assassinate her at the tea party, right? So at the same time that one assassination plot is revealed by Pudding, another assassination plot is revealed by Capone Beige. So both sides, obviously Pudding was technically on Big Mom's side in the first place, right? Like presented to it like she's part of the Big Mom family. But for the first half of the arc, it is basically suggested that Pudding is on our side, right? Pudding is on our side, Capone Beige, well, he's a soldier for Big Mom. Then halfway through the arc, it kind of swaps, where it's like Pudding reveals, ha ha ha, I've just been playing you all along. I've secretly been setting you all up, right? Same time, Beige then reveals his assassination plot. He hasn't actually been working for Big Mom all along. He's just been pretending to set up to basically take her out. So then Beige comes over to work with the Straw Hats, right? He betrays Big Mom, comes over to work with the Straw Hats. So it's kind of like a diabolical traitorous plot is revealed on both sides. Wano, same thing. Where same time that Kanjuro is revealed to be a traitor, right? Same time that Kanjuro is revealed to be a traitor, we have what's his face? Denjiro, like just a few chapters later, reveal himself to be a traitor for the other side. Like he's actually betraying Orochi now and coming to help the alliance, right? So Kanjuro betrays the alliance to help Orochi, then Kyoshiro Denjiro betrays Orochi to come help the alliance. So it's like a swapping, right? So 1 for 1. Then same thing in Egghead, which is around the same time, like right after Stussy reveals that she's betraying the world government to help Vegapunk and the Straw Hats. Right after that, York reveals that she's betraying Vegapunk and the Straw Hats to actually help the world government and the Celestial Dragons. So we are getting a trade-off pretty much every single arc. So Doflamingo was spot on when he's saying like who's going to betray whom, right? There's always a traitor. And Viola was an example of like someone betraying Doflamingo to help the Straw Hats. Was there another traitor example for betraying the Straw Hats in Dressrosa? I guess you could say like the Funk brothers, but that's not like a huge part. Like they did trick the Straw Hats or whatever, or they did trick Luffy and Law or something like that. Bobby and Kelly Funk, but that's not a huge deal. But yeah, I just like that Oda's like each arc, 2 characters. There's always it's a duo betrayal. Like you're gonna get 2 betrayals at the very least, but it's gonna be fair. It's gonna even out the playing field a little bit. I like that Oda's been doing that. Now that I think about it. So that does have me thinking that it's possible that we get something like that. That raises the question for me with Gunko, because it's just like, okay, is Gunko someone who's a former revolutionary who betrayed them for the God's Knights, or is Gunko a fucking Revolutionary Army double agent who's going to betray the Celestial Dragons to help the Straw Hats or something? I don't know. I think that's interesting. Anime Dimension, thanks for the 2. Rob Lucci and Company Trader reveal. Also, it's cool. Rob Lucci and Company Trader reveal. Oh, you're saying CP9. Yeah. CP9's trader reveal back then? Yeah, that was really, really good. That was really good. And again, I think that was really cool because it was just out of the blue. I don't think Oda established that there's definitely double agents working for Iceberg or whatever. I don't think that was established. So that was it was just really out of the blue. I think it was also one of the first times in One Piece that we had one of those big type of trader reveals. I like that type of stuff. I think I prefer the CP9 type reveal where it's just a shocker versus the Kanjuro type of reveal where it's like Oda tells us well in advance that, hey, there's a bad guy amongst you guys. Try and figure out. I prefer that the trader reveal just organically manifest itself personally. But Kanjuro's reveal was still really good. Isaiah Davis, thanks for the 5. Gabon is pro-race mixing. Hajrudin is being shamed for his mixed blood. Bonnie, father, possibly Shamrock is the theme of this arc, heritage and birthright. Oh, shit! Isaiah Davis, that's a really good point. That's a really, really good point. I do think Bonnie's father potentially being Shamrock, that could play in really, really well. That's a really good point, Isaiah Davis. I think that's a really phenomenal point. Because I felt like a big theme of this arc that was developing was fatherhood in general. You're getting into, like, what about heritage, bloodlines, things like that. I like that idea as well. That's a really, really good point. J.K. Kane, thanks for the 2. Do you think Emu will be written in a comedic way? I don't think so. I don't think Emu will be written in a comedic way. I think none of the Gorosei are written in a comedic way, so I imagine Emu won't be either. The Gorosei are, again, I think the only group so far that it's across the board, no gags. No gags, no jokes. They're all fucking serious every time they talk. There's no gag moments, nothing. The only gag that we have for them is something that Oda explained to us off screen, I think in an SBS, that like Mars is often late to the meetings and that's why he has to stand. But like that's in an SBS. In the manga itself, no jokes with the Gorosei. Fruit Rings, thanks for the 2. Can Oda handle the huge cast of the Final War? I think yes. I definitely think yes, because to me, here's the simple, how do I say this? I think Oda can definitely handle, okay, 2 reasons I think that Oda can handle the cast of the Final War, okay? 1, I think it's become very clear as of late that Oda has saved most of his best ideas of what to do with all of these side characters for the end of the story, right? If I look at Egghead, so many things clearly are coming together for the side characters in the story. Like, that's the first time we got significant character writing for Kobe, and you can see the angle that he's going with it, with like Garp passing the torch to the new generation Kobe. What is Kobe supposed to stand for? You can see that storyline beginning to bloom for Kobe, right? Aokiji. All this time we've been wondering, where's Oda going with Aokiji? Where's he going with Aokiji? That arc kind of revealed that Oda has a plan for Aokiji. He's been planning this for this character for a long ass time, right? Sabo, the Flame Emperor stuff, like we know that Oda's kind of got a direction that he's writing this character towards. It just feels like even Buggy, right? Like Buggy giving that big speech and everything like that and kind of revealing aspects to his character that we didn't realize before. I think just Kuma, Bonnie, right? Like the fact that Oda's delivering on all of the setup that he had from Kuma for so long, and by extension, starting to deliver on all of the setup that he had for Bonnie and her mystery for so long. It just is becoming very evident that Oda, all the plans that Oda had for this wide cast of characters, he's been saving it for this final saga. This is where, like, because you can't just write Kuma's storyline out of thin air. There's so many steps that Oda had to write beforehand to set up for what Kuma's storyline was going to be in Egghead. So that's the payoff for that. Same with Bonnie. Same with Kobe and Garp. Same with Aokiji. What we're seeing is like a long-term planned, long-term planned payoffs to initial character setups, initial character concepts, initial planting of seeds of storylines, right? I think that's just always going to be a lot more, like, we're seeing a sort of, it feels more guaranteed that these things are going to have payoffs because you can already see how the setup from way back is paying off. And we know that Oda's been thinking about these characters for a long time. I think with an arc like Wano, which I keep going back to, but let's say that's an arc that, in my opinion, it had too many characters, let's say, in my opinion. I think that's just natural because you can see Oda's planning process for Wano. He's not planning the Wano arc from 20 years back, right? He probably had the bare bones of it at some point in the last like couple decades or so. But we know from Oda's notes and stuff, like initially he was like, okay, I'll have 4 scabbards. You know what? I'm just going to keep adding more and more scabbards till now I have 9, right? That wasn't part of the plan. The reality is that like the final stuff, like in terms of what his final concept for most of these side characters are going to be, like the characters in Vegapunk's spread of the speech that he has of all the major characters, those are things that Oda has been thinking on for a long time, likely since way back when he invented the characters, right? Whereas storylines in the middle, like Wano, like Whole Cake, maybe like Dressrosa, those are storylines that he's likely coming up with as the story itself progresses. Like he still plans for them. We know Oda's really good at planning and he has payoffs in those arcs, but it's not like he's from like 15 years back when he's planning the Wano storyline, he didn't have all the scabbards in mind. He didn't have like every character in Wano in mind. A lot of people have talked about how Odin was very possibly not a character that Oda initially thought of because Odin's existence kind of contradicts how Rayleigh explained that they were able to read the poneglyphs back in chapter like 506 or so, basically. Like they're like, it's likely that a lot of pieces of the arcs that are happening in between are things that Oda's thinking of as those arcs approach, like a lot of the details. Whereas the storylines for all of these other side characters that have been in One Piece for so fucking long, those are things that Oda's probably thought about for like such a long time. Like Oda has had like 25 years to think about how Zoro versus Mihawk is going to go down, right? That's something that he's been thinking about for God knows how long, right? that stuff is more likely to have a good payoff just because the plan has likely been there for a longer time, and we've been seeing the like he has that arc more so set up than any other arc prior. So I have faith in Oda being able to handle a large cast of characters because they're not characters that are coming out of nowhere. They're characters that he's been thinking about for God knows how long. Whereas with Wano, like, I'm sure that, like, out of the dozens and dozens of characters that we had, Oda probably only really thought of, like, there's only a handful that he was initially planning when he was first thinking of the arc. And then it just ballooned and ballooned into whatever we got at the end of the day, right? Same with the Dressrosa, same with, like, a lot of the in-between arcs, I feel. The other reason I have a lot of faith in Oda handling the large cast of characters in the final saga is because they're characters that, like, he almost already has. It's almost like it's kind of like hard to fail with them because it's a cast of characters that we already really like and are invested in. Does that make sense? Like, they're all characters that, yeah, they're all characters that, like, they're all characters that, like, even if we just cut away to, like, a random chapter of, like, Sabo or, like, Mihawk or, like, Dragon or Shanks or something, we're going to be innately interested. Does that make sense? Like, because I do YouTube, because I put out these videos, etc., I know what type of characters, like, get people's interest, right? Characters that we've had for a long time, like, anytime we're cutting away to outside world characters or, like, characters that are, like, from certain factions, like, anytime we cut away to some Yonko crew or the Revolutionary Army or, like, fucking Gorosei or whatever, people are excited by that shit. People love that shit, right? The stuff that is slower is when we're getting to meet characters that are more minor and more, like, island specific that readers don't have a prior attachment to. Sorry, so for example, you know, like, Gerd is cool. Like, Colin, I'm sure, is a cool character or whatever. Like, these are nice, cute new characters or whatever that we're learning about, but they're not, like, we're starting from scratch with them. We have no reason to care about them already. So we're kind of starting from scratch. They're not hype. They're just random new island characters that Oda now has to build a story around, right? So, like, Roto, whatever, right? Like, it is what it is. And I'm sure by the end of the arc, we will have come to love several of these island characters, right? But so far, the only one that really, really captures people's attention is Loki, right? And that's because Loki is being hyped up as being so strong. And then Skopper Gaban. And that's because Skopper Gaban is, guess what? He's a character that we already fucking knew about, right? Like, we've seen glimpses of Skopper Gaban in Roger flashbacks, in Odin flashbacks and everything. He's a character that we already have pre-built interest in, right? So I think it's honestly hard to fumble the cast of characters that we have heading into the final saga because it's not like Oda has to invent a whole new cast of characters like he does in, like, and get us invested in them, like, you know, like the Riku family or the Tantaras or, like, the Nine Scabbards or, like, the Minks or whoever the fuck, or, like, Shinobu or Momonosuke or, like, Yamato or whatever, right? Everyone heading into the final saga, these are all the characters that everybody already wants to see. Like, I promise you this, like, again, just because I do YouTube videos, I see the viewership, I see how things go. We can have a chapter where we cut away to, like, the fucking Blackbeard Pirates or something, and, like, jack shit actually happens, but people are just excited to read that chapter because it's the fucking Blackbeard Pirates. We can have a chapter where we cut away to Cross Guild, and jack shit happens, but we are excited to read it because it's just fun to see interactions between Cross Guild. It's fun to see Mihawk, like, you just put the name Mihawk into a chapter, that chapter is going to be exciting for readers. So I think that the way Oda set things up, there's so much buildup to the final cast of characters, it is almost impossible to fail. I think the only way that he could fuck it up, I genuinely think the only way he could fuck it up is if he decides that he wants to start adding more and more and more new characters that are random-ass new characters who we just don't care that much about. Like, he's already got a huge cast. He's got Yonkos, he's got Revolutionaries, he's got, like, he's got the Celestial Dragons, the Blackbeard Pirates, great groups of villains that we were looking forward to seeing. Even minor characters, like, even unaffiliated characters, the unaffiliated characters are still interesting, like a Boa Hancock, like a Silvers Rayleigh. Like, everything is there that we need. We don't actually need that much more stuff. if in the next saga, Oda just starts including more random bullshit characters for no real reason other than he wants to, that's where I think things could go a little bit south. But I don't think that is going to be... I don't think that's going to be the case. I think that's all it is. I think that's all he needs to do. I think he's got the big enough cast of characters. He's got probably payoffs in mind for most of them. He's got our interest. We will be happy to read any combination of any chapter with any combination of any of the major characters left, right? He's got everything. He just needs to not keep adding more characters, I think. That's all he needs to do, right? Like, if we get to the final war and, like, suddenly we're reading about, like... Okay, we've got the Revolutionary Army commanders, but did you know about the Revolutionary commanders? Like, they each have a right and left hand, and we're gonna, like, they each have like an Inazuma equivalent or something, and we're gonna learn about each of them, and we're gonna follow them, and they're each gonna get like a storyline or like a fight or something, like a fucking Raizo versus Fukurokuju. That's where I think we have potential to become too bloated and lose interest. That's my thought. All right. JWP says, every new character is hype. God's Knights, Loki, lol. Yeah, I think that every new character that's a major world player is hype. I'm saying that the danger comes in with basically, like, if I'm looking at the Revolutionary Army, right? If I'm looking at the Revolutionary Army, let's see. I'm going to catch up on supers in a second. Yeah, we're getting into the territory of, like, deputy commanders, right? So we've got the commanders, and then they've each got a deputy commander. For example, Inazuma. We like Inazuma because Inazuma was around during Impel Down. But Jiren, Ahiru, Ushiano, Gambo, these are the type of characters that I'll just say right now have the potential to derail things in the final saga. Those are the type of characters. Because once you start... Like, maybe 1 out of every 4 of those characters has some sort of interesting story. But when you start stacking and stacking, at a certain point, like, less is more, right? Like, I don't think Dressrosa is better off for us getting a chapter of, like, Leo fighting an officer. Does that make sense? I don't think Wano is better off for us getting, like, 10 chapters of Raizo versus Fukurokuju happening in the background. I think at a certain point, less is more, right? Like... Enies Lobby, for example, every single fight that we had was one that we actually cared about. I think that's just stronger storytelling when, like, you're going from back to back to back to back events that are actually exciting, interesting, have the reader invested, right? Rather than basically like, okay, we're going to get something that we like, and then we're going to, thank you, and then we're going to cut away to something that is just not as... just not as interesting. Does that make sense? Like, we shouldn't have to be going back and forth in that sense, in my opinion. Let me continue on. JWP, thanks for the 5. Gunko is Ginny or Ginny clone and breaks free upon seeing Bonnie. Also, is Kuma still here? Where's that story going? I feel like we all forgot. I think that's going to be a background thing. I don't think that's going to be super relevant at the moment. Ginny clone is actually a very interesting idea. I have no idea if it's a Ginny clone, though. Ginny clone seems kind of... I don't know. I think that there is something here related to Bonnie. I think either Shamrock being her father, Ginny being Gunko, Ginny being a Gunko clone, Ginny being the one who betrayed... Gunko being the one... Sorry. Gunko being Ginny. Gunko being a Ginny clone. Gunko being the one who betrayed Ginny. Something like that. I think there's potentially something there. I hope the Kuma stuff... I just hope Kuma doesn't just get a happily ever after at the end, because for me that just removes all of the beauty of Chapter 1102. Whatever happens, if he's momentarily fixed or something like that, that's cool, but just don't keep him around forever. That's my only thought. Clokey, thanks for the 2. Wano High-key gave me doubt if he can handle it. Yeah, it gave me doubt as well, but I think I've explained the reasons as to why I think this is very different. Like, Wano is a similar size cast to what we'll be working with in the Final War, but it's almost all characters that we're going to be learning. It was almost all characters that we're learning from the ground up. Like, we had to learn and meet like half the scabbards while we're there. We're meeting new characters like Shinobu, Hyogoro. Like, so much groundwork has to be laid there. We have to learn about the whole conflict of Wano from scratch, like what's been happening to this country, yada, 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 all of that. The Final War is inherently different in that, like, we know the conflict. We know the conflict. We've been living and breathing the conflict, the evil that the world government has been doing for God knows how long. Like, we know the victims. We know the islands that are going to be at stake here, Luffy's friends, allies. We know the cast of characters that are going to be the heroes, right? Like, all the revolutionaries, red-haired pirates, maybe Crossguild, like Luffy's other allies, like Yamato, Hancock, etc. Like, we know everything. We care about everything. So much groundwork is done. The hype is already there. There's just, it's a very, very different setup, in my opinion. And I think from Oda's end, I think the evidence of his planning is more so there than in Wano. Like, in Wano, I would put it this way. I would not be surprised if Oda came up with the character of Kawamatsu, for example, just because Oda wanted to write that one chapter about Gyukimaru the fox. And by the way, I like that chapter quite a bit. I think it's a nice, cute little chapter. Like, I think it's a solid chapter, the fox chapter, right? I think that's a solid little chapter. Inventing an entire character who is now going to be part of this primary ensemble, who's going to be featuring so regularly from then on, just for the sake of writing one brief little flashback, one chapter storyline, I think that's the kind of thing that, like, you keep doing that over and over, and it makes the story very bloated, in my opinion. And it makes it harder to care about the scabbards because now there's so fucking many of them. King G, thanks for the 5. Loki looking like a top 5 character to me. Elbaf will be one of those timeless arcs we will revisit after the story ends. I am confident. I truly believe that Elbaf is set up to be the best post-time skip arc. Oda did so much great character writing work in Egghead. The only thing that I felt was missing for me was like some focus on the Straw Hats. Elbaf, we've had so much focus on the Straw Hats. I love what Oda's been doing with the Straw Hats so far. And the Elbaf characters so far don't feel obtrusive. Like, they don't feel like they're stealing the spotlight or the story's all about them. Except for really the ones that we care about a lot, which is Loki and potentially Hajrudin. Like, this is like a cool, simple, focused dynamic that we are going to, that I would be happy to explore more. Because it's not like 10 different dynamics, right? Like, it's not like we're having to, like, have a whole storyline over here with, like, something with Ripley. We're not having a whole storyline here with Roto, blah, 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 blah. Like, yeah, Roto's a character. We did technically get a storyline from in Legoland. But, like, he's a character, but, like, he's a background side piece character. Like, we're not getting a whole dramatic arc for him, right? The only real dramatic character arc that is shaping up in Elbaf so far, outside of the Straw Hats, is Loki. That is good. Loki and Hajrudin, that's good. That's one thing we can focus on. That's good. And then the rest can be around the Straw Hats to some degree. Love that. I'm very, very excited for Elbaf. I think Elbaf has all the makings of something really, really great. And again, Oda's been planning it for so long. Evil Friend, thanks for the 5. Any updated thoughts on the Louis Arnault warning from the beginning of Elbaf? Oh, shit. I fucking forgot about that shit. What if it doesn't mean anything? What if it's like Marco's note? It doesn't mean anything. Don't stay here for too long just because you should stay here for too long. I don't know. Elbaf really seems like a fucking good-ass society. There's no hint of some sort of evil god. There's no hint of some sort of evil god. There's no dystopic elements that we can tell. There's no regular threat to the island. Everyone there seems to be living. Elbaf is honestly one of the most chill and wholesome civilizations we've ever had in One Piece, which I think is supposed to be contradictory to the idea of it being like an island of war or whatever. Maybe Louis Arnault visited back when Elbaf was more so known for war, but that doesn't make sense because, like, I don't think that lines up timeline-wise, right? Because he came across Little Garden when Dory and Brogy were still fighting there. Meek, thanks for the 5. Next chapter could be the start of a Loki / Hajrudin, even Harold flashback chapter. What do you think? Tom says, who the hell is Ushimaru? It's the fox. It's the fox. Let's get the stream likes up to 200 real quick. I wonder, so in terms of a flashback, hey, Casey. In terms of a flashback starting next chapter, I feel like that would be a momentum killer. I think I would like to see the current scenario play out a little bit before we then began a flashback. That's my personal preference. But I wouldn't be surprised if Oda starts a flashback. Maybe it's a dark flashback and then it cuts back to what the Gods Knights are doing and then it makes it even heavier or something like that. Like going from heavy flashback to cut back to the present and like even more bad shit's happening. So I think that could be a thing. JWP, thanks to the 5. Best example of characters who mean nothing are the guys Yamato met. Sorry, forgot those entire chapters. Oh my fucking god. You're saying like the fucking the samurai that she met or her friends that were numbers? I don't know, man. You're saying like Zoro's dad or Shimotsuki, whoever? Not dad, but you know what I mean, like the other Shimotsuki. But yeah, I would agree. I would agree. Hold on. All right, guys. We're probably going to call stream in the next 5 minutes. So let me just see here. Ushimaru's the fox's owner? Wait, what? Ushimaru's the oh, yeah, Shimotsuki. Oh, okay, never mind. I mixed it up. Mixed it up. Sorry. The fox. What was the fox called? Because the fox started calling himself Yukimaru, right? Do we think Harold might be Kaido's father? Oh, Zoro told Luffy to take it easy on Loki. That's good, because, you know, before this chapter, there was discussion, like, are Zoro and Luffy going to be kind of, like, having some tension over the course of this arc or something? But it seems like they've been on the same wavelength so far. It seems like they've been on the same wavelength in general so far. Onimaru. My bad. Yeah. I think that, yeah, let me do a quick poll. Harold, I'm kind of curious about this. This is my last kind of question of the stream. Is Harold Loki's father? I would just love to see how a Loki-Kaido confrontation would go. They're just so similar. Maybe they'd both just bully Hajrudin. Let me look at Kaido's horns again. Let's see. It's the mark of the ancient giants. Yeah, Loki's horns come forward a bit more. Kaido's horns are a bit more like out and up, like an ox, I guess. Loki's horns are a bit different. Loki's horns are almost more like an alien. Harold's horns are a bit more out and up. Maybe we'll get a better view later on. Okay. Is Harold Loki's father? My bad. Let me redo the question. Let's do this one more time. I like that a lot of people voted no still. Because we know that Harold had non-legitimate children, you know? So that is part of this. Kaido and Loki, there's a huge size difference. It's just, with One Piece, we've gotten so used to gigantic perspectives that, like, there was a time where, like, just meeting a giant was really significant. Like, it was like, holy shit, a giant. Now it's just like, giant, Kaido, like, Luffy fighting Kaido, Luffy fighting a giant. It basically looks visually the same. And then Like, Loki is apparently the size of oars, but being the size of oars is no longer really a big deal. All right, more people say no, but it seems like a solid nearly 40% of 35 to 40% of people think yes. Interesting. Last question. Thanks a lot, Akash Panda. Thank you for the 5. First, Bartos scene with Shanks. Now, Hajrudin stuff with Loki. If Oda keeps giving character stuff to the other 5, they might turn out to be worthy of the Stride fleet. That's actually a really, really good point, man. I didn't think about that because I felt like initially Bartolomeo and like there was a sort of sliding scale in that the Strahd Grand Fleet, Bartolomeo was a fun character, Cavendish was a fun character. Neither of them had that much depth. I think Bartolomeo got a little bit. Hajrudin, he talked a big talk, but we didn't really get that much focus on. Like, he was kind of just like waffling about shit that we didn't understand. Like he comes into the Coliseum and is like, I want to be king of the giants, gets one-shotted. Then at the end of the arc, he's like helping, and he's fighting Makvis, and he's getting trashed by Makvis, and then he gets up and he starts yelling shit like, this is for Elbaf or some shit like that, like spear of Elbaf. Like, he says some shit, and it's like, bro, you just beat Makvis, like, calm down or whatever. And then he passes out. So we don't give him much heed. Leo and the Tontadas were fucking boring as fuck to me throughout Dressrosa. I genuinely don't think Leo and the Tontadas added jack shit to Dressrosa, except they were important for Usopp's storyline, but I wonder if there was a way to do that without introducing all the fucking Tontadas. I guess it's important. I just never cared for the Tontadas. Sai got a bit of storytelling there. I think Sai may have already had his best moment in defeating Laoji, because I just don't know. I don't know. But it is interesting to me that from here on, it does seem like like you just said, the Bartolomeo scene with Shanks was phenomenal. I really like that scene for Bartolomeo. It felt like he's a very real character, and the show of loyalty to Luffy right there was just great. Love that. Hajrudin is turning out to be the most important of the Grand Fleet, in a sense. I don't know. I can't imagine Cavendish being a serious character in the grand scheme of things, but it might be the case. So I do like the direction that Oda's going with the Grand Fleet. I do like what he's trying to do here. It's possible even like Ideo and Bluegilly might do some shit to like mend relationships between the long leg, long arm tribe. So I do think that there's a great use of I think Oda found the perfect point in the story to introduce Hajrudin. And I'll always say this. I think that like heading into one of my favorite things about Elbaf, I think just in general, heading into arcs, I think it is always, if you're going to be working with a large cast of characters, it is always better to get the reader introduced to some of those characters in advance. I think otherwise you're having to do too much work to introduce lots of new characters that the reader doesn't really care that much about, right? So like the fact that we're getting to Elbaf, and yeah, it has a large island-sized roster of characters, but like we like Dorian Brogy, right? Like we already know Dorian Brogy, we like them. Oimo and Kashi, we like them from Enies Lobby, right? Like, none of these characters needed to make the biggest splash during their time in the story earlier, but there's just a sense of familiarity and joy just to seeing familiar faces from the past. There just is, right? Stanson, fucking, obviously Hajrudin from the Grand Fleet, right? Like, back in Dressrosa, I was just like, okay, this fucking giant that's part of our Grand Fleet now, but now that he's coming back to play this role in Elbaf, it's like, oh, fucking Hajrudin's here. That's our guy. That's our guy for Dressrosa. That's our guy for the Grand Fleet. All right. Like, yeah, come on, man. Like, okay, Hajrudin's actually got a storyline here. All right, let's hear out what's going on with Hajrudin, right? Like, it feels different. Yeah, it just feels different. It feels more like you're already half settled into the cast of characters in a sense. And so then when we meet some new ones like a Gerd, a Colin, a Ripley, or whatever, we're not having to learn that much more. Like fucking Saul, right? Like there's so many familiar characters that Oda's already done the groundwork for us in Elbaf to be on board with, right? So now if you're introducing this fucking Walrus principle or whatever, it's not like a whole bunch, and it's just like, okay, this is the guy that Saul works with or whatever, right? And then Loki, that way it allows Loki to really just shine as the character that is the main character focus that we're being introduced to, rather than having to learn a bunch of new different characters. So I think that's really strong. Yeah, that's just my thought process on that. Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in. And yeah, this was a fun chapter. I really fucking enjoyed this chapter. And I'm really looking forward to next chapter in the way that this whole thing turns out, and very interested in Loki's character. So I will talk to you all later.